Hey, what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt Jarbo. This is 3 Buck Theater, and today is the 8th of January, 2019. We are, wow, 2019. The years are going by, which means that the movies are going out at a lot faster of a rate. In fact, while I kind of always look at January as being a relatively slow movie news month, today is jam-packed full of content, as you can see from the sidebar. There's a lot to get through. But first things first, at the end of the episode, I will be going through a few of your voicemail calls that you guys sent in yesterday. If you want to get your voicemail answered on the show, be sure to call in to 818-350-3281. That's 818-350-3281. I'll be answering them at the end of every episode, Monday through Friday, as we go on to premiere at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So without further ado, let's just jump right into the first story here, because after all the years of waiting to find out whether or not Barbie was going to be materializing on the big screen, it turns out now that Margot Robbie has signed in on playing the role. Saying here, Margot Robbie's Barbie film moves ahead at Warner's closes deal with Mattel. Now, what you have to remember about this movie is that it was originally slated to star Amy Schumer as Barbie, as a fish out of water kind of enchanted type story that nobody wanted. Actually, I think that the movie I Feel Pretty was the same script, just altered a little bit. And there's a reason why it tanked. It says here, Warner Brothers and Mattel have partnered to bring Barbie to the big screen, with Margot Robbie set to portray the live-action version of the iconic doll. The project is a great start to our relationship with Wynon and Mattel Films, says Toby Emmerich, the chairman of Warner Brothers. And Margot is an ideal producer and actress to bring Barbie to life on screen in a fresh and relevant way for today's audiences. What you have is a woman who, let's be fair here, I mean, just taking a look at her, she looks like the human embodiment of Barbie. I just, don't believe me, go back and watch the anatomically correct sequences of her in Wolf on Wall Street, and you're like, that's Barbie. Of course, make sure this hand is pointed and this hand is still above your desk. You might be at work right now. So it says here, Robbie will co-produce the film under her Lucky Chap Entertainment banner alongside Tom Ackerley and Josie McNamara. She says here, she says here, playing Barbie promotes confidence, curiosity, and communication throughout a child's journey to self-discovery. Over the brand's almost 60 years, Barbie has empowered kids to imagine themselves in aspirational roles, from princess to president. I'm so honored to take on this role and produce a film that I believe will have a tremendous positive impact on children and audiences worldwide. I can't imagine better partners than Warner Brothers and Mattel to bring this film to the big screen. And of course, this is coming out of the newly established Mattel Films, led by producer Robbie Brenner, as well as a first collaboration between Mattel Films and Warner Brothers. And Mattel's wanted to get this kind of thing done for a while, right? They've wanted to make this movie for years. And like I said, first it was Amy Schumer, which nobody wanted. And then it went to Anne Hathaway, which was actually looked at as being, okay, that's surprisingly better. And then she dropped out because of scheduling conflicts, or I think they just never got the film off the ground. And then it went over to Margot Robbie. And Robbie, who portrayed Harley Quinn quite well, became a bit of a sex symbol in that regard. I think he's going to do the same thing here. But I am curious how they're going to apply it, how they're going to approach it. It's probably going to be, if I had to guess, something along the lines of like Legally Blonde, but with Barbie. That's kind of where my mind would take it, where it's definitely empowering for children and young women, especially because that's clearly who the audience is for, that are middle-aged men who like to collect and brush doll hair, which is a little bit creepy. Waylon Smithers, of course, I'm looking at you, sir. Cartoon character that is a little weird. Anyway, this should be interesting. I don't have a desire to see it. I know at one point in time, my daughter will definitely want to see it, but thankfully she's only one. And by the time this thing comes out, she won't know what the hell it is. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of angle they go down, what road they go down, and what kind of marketing they choose to push. Because this could be one of those movies where they play it very straightforward, or it could be one like Ghostbusters 2016, where they play up the female empowerment part, and then that turns into something that it just could ultimately destroy the film. We'll have to wait and see, but for right now, it's literally Schrodinger's Barbie. Anything could happen. We just have to look inside the box. Anyway, jumping over here to an interesting story that broke out this morning. Spiderverse could get its own series of spinoffs. I mean, coming off of Best Animated Picture win from the Golden Globes, and never mind the fact that the movie is being hailed as not only the best Spider-Man movie ever made, but the best comic book film of 2018, and some people have said the best movie of 2018. It makes sense that Sony's going to want to find a way to capitalize on this. They've already talked about, Into the Spider-Verse Part 2. They want to do a Spider-Gwen spinoff. So doing TV series kind of makes some sense. Now, it says here that Sony Pictures Animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse has massively exceeded critical expectations and fared very well at the box office. It fared okay at the box office, let's be fair. It wasn't... Releasing it in December is still a bad idea. And I still think Miles Morales is going to do well on home video, but in theatrical, if not Peter Parker, people didn't really go. And I think the box office kind of showed that. Whilst the sequel is foregone conclusion at this point, the New York Times report that the studio is looking to expand the property in other ways. The paper indicates that Sony is considering making animated television shows based on characters introduced into the Spider-Verse. The prospect would make more sense than greenlighting numerous film spin-offs, though a multi-generational Spider-Woman film has been rumored. This could mean the likes of Spider-Man Noir and Penny Parker might get their own shows for the streaming platform. This could be something that ties into Disney Plus if Disney Plus wants to work with Sony in order to create Spider-Man shows. But let's be fair, Spider-Man Noir, no one's going to want to see that. Penny Parker, maybe I'm assuming that's the animated one. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm assuming that's the anime one. But Spider-Ham is really what people are going to want. With John Mulaney having just won an Emmy for Kid Gorgeous, his work on numerous projects over the years, as well as his growing popularity, bringing a Spider-Ham show. And this is a character that's been around for like over 30 years. So it's not like there's not a litany of stories to tell with the character, but ultimately looking at the idea here, what we have is, I think that would be the better idea. Now it says, Spider-Verse has collected $276 million to box office to date from a budget of $90 million. Joaquin DeSantos and David Callahan are set to direct and write the film sequel, which will continue Miles' story. Look, $276 million. I'm not knocking the movie. People are going to accuse me of knocking the movie. That's a good take home for what they've spent, to be fair. I just think it could have been more. An animated Spider-Man movie should have done more. Again, a lot of it has to do with simply the timing. So, Venom 2, Venom numero dos, right? This is something that ultimately everyone expected, but is surprised that they've waited this long to announce it. I mean, the movie itself has been out on home video for the last couple weeks, the last month and a half, really. Month. Sorry, my timing is off. It grossed over 800 million worldwide. They should have already announced the sequel the following Monday after it came out. But we finally get it now. It says here, following the box office smash, Venom, Sony Pictures is putting the wheels in motion for a sequel to the anti-hero adventure. The studio has tapped Kelly Marcel, one of the screenwriters from the first movie, to pen the script. Sources close to negotiation tell Variety that although an exact amount couldn't be unveiled, Marcel's deal was a significant one. She will also executive produce the follow-up, which will see Tom Hardy return as the symbiote. Marcel also was a producer on the first movie. Now, it says here that they probably are going to be putting it out in October 2020, which does make sense. Again, 2 years. But with how fast the movie came out on home video, obviously wanting to meet the Christmas demand, it could be moved up at any point in time, I would assume. Now it says Michelle Williams is expected to rejoin, and then as is Woody Harrelson, who will portray Carnage in the sequel. A director has not been set, though sources say the studio might look for a new filmmaker, as Venom helmer Ruben Fleischer will be busy shooting a sequel to Sony's Zombieland. Oh my God. So Kelly Marcel here, let's just quickly take a look at this before I talk about the Ruben Fleischer thing. Kelly Marcel was known for adapting another box office hit, 50 Shades of Grey. Now, 50 Shades of Grey did go on to gross over $500 million, the first movie. The second and third one, no, but the trilogy itself did gross over $1 billion worldwide for Universal. So that's going to definitely speak to her benefit, even though the scripts were pretty atrocious. But then again, Melissa Rosenberg wrote the Twilight scripts, and she's a fantastic writer, so it is what it is. But let's talk about Ruben Fleischer real quick. I do think Ruben Fleischer is going to be back in the director's seat, predominantly because Zombieland 2 starts shooting this month, and it comes out in October, meaning that the movie is going to be done in a couple months, and they're going to do a quick turnaround. They're going to get the thing out. So yeah, it's going to be out by October to meet its 10-year anniversary from the first film. So he'll have plenty of time once that's over. And once it goes into post-production, while the VFX teams are doing what they're doing and the editors doing what they're doing, he could probably start working on developing what they want to do with Venom 2. But with bringing in Kelly Marcel and her background being 50 Shades of Grey, let's be fair as to what is going to work here. Now, what worked well in Venom? Right. Well, the definite Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde mentality aspect worked really well. The shit talking between the characters, but also the love story with Amy Wang. So that was clearly going to be a large part of this next film. They're going to focus on more of the dark comedy and leaving the horror aside. I think that's what's going to play because that's what resonated well with the audience. Also, the fact that Venom says she belongs with us and they're going to try to win her back and everything else. She also played She-Venom in the movie. Sorry, they're spoilers. I figured right now most of you would have already seen it considering it's already been on home video. That's the angle they're going to play up. And you can tell that by bringing on Kelly Marcel, not only as the screenwriter, the lone screenwriter, but also a producer on the film, and then giving her more power. That's clearly the angle they're going to go for. Ruben Fleischer does well with dark comedy, but I don't know how well it's going to handle the love story part of it. So it's entirely possible they will go and bring in a new director, although Ruben Fleischer's hand in this particular film is one of the things that helped get it to the $800 million plus worldwide take home. So it's kind of stupid for me to think that that they're not going to actually go and want to bring him in. That being said, we'll have to wait and see. I am very interested to see what's going to happen next. I am excited for Venom 2. I do hope they tie it into Spider-Man and start making the MCU far more whole than it previously was. Now, jumping over here to this interesting one. This popped up a couple days ago. I missed it until just yesterday after I put up the podcast. Apparently, Han Solo is rumored to be in Star Wars Episode 9. This does make a fair amount of sense. J.J. Abrams is going to basically undo everything that Rian Johnson has done to the best of his absolute ability, I believe. But it says here, while Star Wars Episode 9 sees a return of several stars from the original trilogy, most of us had long assumed that the saga was done with Han Solo by this point, with Harrison Ford's character perishing at the hands of his son, before remaining absent for the events of The Last Jedi. But whether it's through flashback or other means, a new rumor alleges that the famed smuggler is set to return in J.J. Abrams' upcoming trilogy closer. Again, would just like to point out that this shouldn't be a trilogy closer. This should just be another a bridge to the actual closer, which should be Episode 10. But of course, you know, we can't always get what we want. Cosmic Book News reports that a now deleted image posted to Reddit featuring various Episode 9 production swag was uploaded by a user who claims that their wife works in Pinewood Studios. Since then, an image of an identical set of branded goods was shared on Instagram by a different user, suggesting that the Redditor isn't lying about their inside connection. So when the same anonymous Reddit user offers a tease that Han is back, there's reason to believe that the claim just might be legit. Obviously, it's still best to take this report with a grain of salt. That's very true. So how would they bring him back, right? How would they end up bringing him back in there? I think what they're going to do is someone, you know, at the end of the article, it mentions how they're going to bring Carrie Fisher back by using unused footage from Episode 7. And that unused footage could possibly feature Han Solo. They could have had more scenes together rather than the couple that they did. So if they shot more footage with the two of them together, they could have that be effectively flashbacks or some kind of alternative opening where they give us more information with them. But it's entirely possible, and it's entirely possible that Harrison Ford's in the movie. Like, legit in the movie. And I've had this theory for a while because we never actually saw him die, right? We never actually saw him die. We saw a body get stabbed through with the lightsaber, and we saw a body fall, which would imply death. Never mind that Starkiller Base imploded like about 20 minutes later, so one could assume that, yeah, Han Solo died. One could assume such a thing, and one would probably be right. But if we're going off into the realm of theory here, let's lay it out. Who else survived Starkiller Base from falling down a chute of some kind? Well, that would be Phasma. Phasma was heavily marketed, heavily pushed during the marketing phase of Episode 7. Right? There's posters with Captain Phasma. I saw pillows with Captain Phasma. And they did almost nothing with the character, obviously setting her up to have a bigger part in episode 8 and episode 9. And that ultimately didn't happen because Rian Johnson didn't know what to do with her either. So he effectively killed her off a second time. And I'm not even really worried about that. I don't think she's dead, by the way. J.J. Abrams really liked Phasma. Phasma's back. Phasma's a survivor. Phasma's going to be able to make it through. But how did Phasma get out of the trash compactor? And what if Phasma, and this again, this is a theory I've heard for the last couple of years now. We're talking over 3 years I've been hearing this theory. What if Phasma had in fact actually found or rescued Han Solo? On her way out, she realized who he was, his value to not only the First Order in regards of being like maybe a prisoner of some kind or some kind of trade she could make if she needs to get herself out of where she's at, right? Like give him back to the Resistance and then go on her merry way, disappear. I don't know. I mean, I kind of figure the character is a bit of a rogue in that regard anyway. What if that was the angle? What if that's what they did? Who knows? Anything is possible. Anything could happen. We'll have to wait and see, but it's a theory. It's a Star Wars theory. But I do want to hear your thoughts on this one. Do you think it's got some legs, or is just another rumor that's just going to be dead in the water? Now, speaking of dead in the water and things that shouldn't be, Daredevil. Daredevil season 3 was amazing. I'm still mad at Netflix for canceling that. Apparently, the cast is backing this petition to get the show reinstated. Even Vincent D'Onofrio is inviting fans to continue the story of the Man Without Fear and Wilson Fisk, saying here Daredevil is done at Netflix, and even though the odds of it returning anytime soon are looking slim, some fans are doing all they can to change it. One fan petition in particular has gained some steam on the internet, thanks in part to a member of the show's cast sending people its way. Vincent D'Onofrio posted a link to the Save Daredevil campaign on social media and became the unexpected hero of fans everywhere. So this is a website. This is savedaredevil.com. Right? Sign the petition. More you can do. I mean, this is organized. This is very, very organized. Saying in less than a week, we became the voice for a Daredevil fan campaign recognized by news articles, actors, and global websites. Thousands of loyal Daredevil fans came to us for guidance. More continue to come to us now, and that the series has been officially canceled by Netflix. We're all upset, angry, and emotional, and rightfully so. But let's remember why we're here. Murdochs always get back up. And this is a well thought out campaign. I mean, this is an organized campaign, which is one of the reasons why looking at it gives me the idea here that this could possibly actually have an impact on bringing the show back. Now, not necessarily in regards with Netflix. I don't think that is going to happen. Netflix is clearly done with everything. Netflix is clearly moving away from Marvel. That makes sense. We know that the guys from Disney Plus want to find a way to keep the characters around, and they definitely want to find a way to include them. And we do know that when this deal with Disney goes through with Fox, Disney's going to have 60% of Hulu, with Warner Brothers probably looking to sell off its 10% stake, which would then basically be a good time for Disney to come on in and just finish buying out Hulu and use it as an extension of Disney Plus, where they could put the more adult themed content. And we already know that certain Marvel shows are going to go there anyway, like Hulu's Runaways, that, you know, and Cloak and Dagger will be on there when it's not on Freeform, or I guess you could say that's where the streaming element of it's going to be. But this is an organized aspect of it where fans are trying to make a pushback. So if Disney was smart, if Marvel Television was smart, they would find a way to work with Netflix to bring these characters over to Hulu of some kind. Well, it could take 2 years. I don't know if that cool off period thing is legitimate. It does seem to make a lot of sense, but at the same time, I am hopeful, very hopeful, that we find ourselves in a position where the show does come back, because I really love season 1, 2, and 3. I love the Defenders, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Jessica Jones, The Punisher. I love all that stuff, and I want to see the stories continue, and I'm glad I'm not the only one, and I'm really glad that there's a campaign like this that exists. And finally today, we're finding out some information about that Men in Black 21 Jump Street crossover that we heard about when the Sony leak happened in 2014. You guys remember that little weird nugget of information? This, of course, is coming off the success of 22 Jump Street, which had opened in June of that year and did very, very, very well. And they were wanting probably to find a way to work on a third film, even though we saw that in the end credits, they showed all the other 21 Jump Street movies that were technically considered canon by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. But Sony had discussed the possibility of developing a Men in Black and 21 Jump Street crossover. It's something that I think people were just kind of interested in. even though they probably ultimately didn't really want. But it says here, a planned 21 Jump Street spinoff that would have seen Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill's characters joining the Men in Black is not happening anymore. Or ever. It never was going to happen, I don't think. Talking to Empire Magazine about the tentatively titled Men in Black 23, Men in Black producer Walter Park says, "We gave it a shot. It turned out to be an impossible matchup." Nothing's impossible in this day and age, okay? Nothing's impossible. It really isn't. If TV has taught us nothing, nothing's impossible. It was the angle, it was the approach. This would have been a hard sell. But if you would have played it up like it would have been, if it would have been self-aware of what it is, I think it could have actually worked. Now, it's his intentions to develop a Men in Black Jump Street crossover movie were first revealed in 2014 during the Sony hack. Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the writer-directors of the Jump Street films, were said to be working on a script that had undercover cops Schmidt and Janko joining the extraterrestrial government agency. Jonah Hill called the idea clean and rad and powerful in a leaked email to then Sony Pictures head Amy Pascal. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I've learned over the years that you never want to bet against Phil Lord and Chris Miller. You really don't. I think had they been able to complete Solo the way that they wanted to, the movie would have probably been a lot more of a success. I liked how it turned out, but I still would love to see what was shot. The 21 Jump Street movies are absolutely fantastic. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs is still a classic nearly 10 years later. The first Lego movie is awesome. And, you know, them producing Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, from what I hear, is glorious. And again, even The Last Man on Earth, that TV show on Fox that was unfortunately canceled on season 4, they were exec producers of, and they really worked closely with it, as well as Brooklyn Nine-Nine. These guys can produce good comedy. So whatever Men in Black 23 would have been, I think it would have been a hit. I think it would have been a hit, but it definitely would not have been. It definitely would not have been Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones, but Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson. I think if Men in Black International does well this next summer, it's entirely possible that that could still be a reality. Because why not? At this point, Sony needs it. It says here, Phil Lord, who wrote the script for the Golden Globe winning Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, says that the crossover plan was real, says it's still a crazy idea, and we only do things that seem like they're going to be terrible. We're really focusing on what's a great story for Schmidt and Janko and how to tell the next chapter in their lives, and perhaps use creatures from another world at the same time. So, you know, he says this in 2014. Obviously, it's been 4 years, hasn't been anything since then, but I don't know. I don't think it's ever going to exist. But it could be a comic. It could be a comic. And I think Sony would be good to maybe treat that as a comic. I guarantee you there's a script. I guarantee it. So the question then becomes, how else is it going to play out? That's my question. How else is it going to do? But I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it as a comic book, kind of like you know, Freddy versus Jason versus Ash was a 6-part comic book from like well over 10 years ago. That was based on a script that was written for Bruce Campbell to star in before the entire project fell apart. And if you talk to that producer, he entirely blames Bruce Campbell for that one. I should try to interview him at least at some point in time and get the full backstory as to what happened with Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. So anyway, as we get through the stories here, we wrapped up all of our stories that we got through. A lot to get through today. I want to jump over into the into our our little voicemail call. And remember, if you guys want to call in, you can always do so at 818-350-3281. That's 818-350-3281. And again, I listen to all the voicemail calls that come in, so I do appreciate that. So without further ado, let's jump in here to the thing. All right, and there we go on that one. All right. If I was prepared, stuff doesn't work properly. Welcome to Recording Things Live. All right, so first things first, let's go.
Hey, Matt, this is Ryan. I was wondering about your stance on practical effects in film. Now, when I think about movies with fantastic practical effects, I immediately think of John Carpenter's The Thing, An American Werewolf in London, David Cronenberg's The Fly, and Jurassic Park, which combined practical along with CGI. And they still hold up even today, in my opinion. Now, I know Hollywood is obsessed with CG nowadays, but to me, there's no denying a sense of there-ness when watching something that's actually there. And I know there are certain limitations when it comes to practical effects, then again, the same could be said with CGI, the uncanny valley, unrealistic movements, over-reliance, etc. So anyway, just want to ask you that and hope you're having a good year so far. Okay, thanks, bye.
Hey, thank you very much for calling in on that one. Yeah, practical effects always win with me over CG. CG is meant to be like a garnish on a dish. It's not meant to be the whole meal. And a big problem, though, is that as studios look at, I think, overinflated budgets, and they start looking at what the kind of stuff they want to shoot and how they want to do it, they start seeing them rapidly inflate, right? And so they go, oh, well, we can just fix it with CG, and then that will cut down the cost somewhat. But then as we look at these movies like Justice League that cost upwards of $300 million with the reshoots, and it becomes almost entirely unprofitable, what was the point then? What was the purpose? Warner Brothers spent over $250 million to make a movie that they were hoping would cross $1 billion and be profitable, but still wasn't. Even look at Spider-Man or The Amazing Spider-Man 2, right? Ballooned budget, $700 million worldwide, was still considered a flop by Sony and therefore ended that particular franchise. I'm not saying it would have been any better with practical effects. Something like Spider-Man probably couldn't be, but I do feel that we would rather be grounded in reality when we watch these movies versus not. Like you said, The Thing special effects hold the fuck up. And that's 36 years old, almost 37 years old this year. And those effects still hold up. I mean, even going as far as to go further back than that, right? 1981, is it 81 or 80? Is Escape from New York. Okay. And I love this effect that when Snake Plissken's on the glider and he's cruising into New York and you see the green grid outline of New York, that was a model of New York City that Carpenter got. And they put neon green tape, chroma tape, on there, and they gridded out the whole city, turned off the lights, and shot a black light at it. It was a real effect. It was a practical effect made to look like a computer. And that's just one of the things that Carpenter was great at, was doing that kind of thing. And I'd like to see more movies embrace that. Animatronics are a big thing. There's a lot that goes into animatronics these days that you don't really see much of. One of my friends has worked on movies in Hollywood doing animatronics for years. He developed the Praline at the end of AVP. He did the Predator mask in that movie. He worked on like an animatronic horse for The Last Samurai. He worked on The Haunted Mansion. He does a lot of the animatronic stuff, and he was even telling me that a lot of his work has been drying up because it's just not doing it as much anymore. And so that's unfortunate for him in that regard. And I think that shows you that Hollywood is they'd rather Michael Bay everything rather than give us something tangible to look at on screen. And I'm just not a fan, not a damn fan with that at all. I'd rather see practical than CG any day of the damn week.
Hey, it's John. I saw your video on Loki being turned into a hero. It's, I call it this Disneyfication, where Disney does not like James Bond villains. They really don't. I mean, the bad guy for being the bad guy or doing bad things for bad reasons. Disney cannot stand that. Disney goes with most of the time it's the inept villain, like they did in The Last Jedi, the inept villain, or the comical villain. But those don't really pan out for the good evil villain like in James Bond movies. Okay, that's all.
All right, well, thank you very much for calling in on that one. Here's the way I view that. I'm going to disagree with you because if you look at like their animated films, Jafar in Aladdin was a villain. He was a villain in the first movie and the second movie. They never redeemed his character. The evil stepmother, in any movie where there's an evil stepmother, they never redeemed the character. What you're referring to here are comic book type characters, right? It's not so much a Bond villain, even though I do feel that that he belongs somewhere in the Bond universe. That would be Tom Hiddleston, whether it's Bond or someone else. I would argue that what it really boils down to here is the way comic books operate. And the way comic books operate is no one's ever really dead and no one's ever really good or ever really bad all the way. They can always find a way to kind of turn it around. And I think in regards to Loki, because I was kind of complaining in that one that they're making Loki a hero, and they retconned his story by saying that he was under control of the Mind Stone in Avengers the first one, because it had been corrupting his mind as much as anyone else's. And that had fueled his hatred towards Earth and his hatred towards Thor. But then in the Dark World, he was free of that. And that allowed him to then become a better person. And again, I'm not too sure how I feel about that ultimately. I kind of feel like it's a little bit of a lame excuse, to be honest with you. I do feel like it's a little bit of Disney, just kind of like retconning something for the sake of going, well, we like him, we want to keep him around, but we have to make audiences like him. So we have to give a valid reason that can't really be argued against in order to get to this point, which, like, from a business perspective, I get it. I'm not against it. I do want to see more of him in this role, but I just, you can tell it's kind of lazy, so to speak. And I would like to argue that they're better than that. But even though they're they're clearly not. But again, thank you so much for calling in.
Hey, Matt, Curtis here. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but Dave Bautista is joining Denis Villeneuve's Dune reboot, and I think, because everybody's talking about who he should play, like if he should be Gurney Halleck or whoever, and I'm thinking to myself, this needs a completely different thing given the way he played Drax the Destroyer. I think that Dave Bautista would make an excellent Thufir Hawat the Mentat. What do you think? Later.
Thanks, Curtis. So, like, I've seen the movie Dune a few times way back in the day. I never read the book, and I haven't seen the miniseries on Sci-Fi, which I understand might be shocking to some of you. I get that. I don't know who Dave Bautista would be good to play in that role. I don't know. But I think whatever role he is in will be good. I think his role in Blade Runner, from Denis Villeneuve, I believe. Villeneuve, is that how you pronounce it? No, Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve. I can't, you know what? My family is French Canadian, and I can't speak French to save my goddamn life. So I don't know. I feel like the dude's a fantastic director, but I think he lost out on the Oscar because no one could pronounce his goddamn last name. Anyway, Dave Bautista's role in the beginning of that movie was really well done. It was well directed. I believe he was able to get a solid performance out of Bautista that was completely opposite to Drax, and definitely opposite to the Bond villain that he played, the henchman that he played in Spectre. So I'd like to see what he brings out of this one, because I think Bautista's actually a solid actor. I think he has an emotional range, and I'd really like to see what they're going to do with that. I just don't quite know where it's going to go in the process or anything else. So I'm waiting to find out. But what this basically tells me is I really, 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 really need to go watch at least the Sci-Fi miniseries, if not read the book. But I'm lazy as shit, so I don't think reading the book is really an option right now. But anyway, guys, that wraps up today's show. I appreciate you guys watching this live on YouTube. I really, 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 really do. Please call in to the voicemail line if you want at 818-350-3281. That's 818-350-3281. You guys can always do that. And again, I'll answer your questions on tomorrow's show. If you have any stories you want to submit, hit me up on Discord. Links are in the video description, or just discord.me/mundanemat. And leave your comments. Have a great day, and peace out.